the sheets?
2 advantages and a framework, so probably 3.
Right. I'm good.
Cool. Advantage 1 is tensions use. Presence is removes our any options forcing escalation into regional war. Only combinations all alternate forcing. U.S. failure attributed disparities of power that are running custom declaration is supposed. The war and knowledge of the U.S. within our land bridges into the RL to adapt and train the sanctions to our groups or lines. Whenever partly punishment and will increase in activity to Washington is willing to accommodate where extension the war completed extension work committed to be deterrence weaker powers have an advantage cause limited adversaries will everything to lose good. War motivated the U.S. can level the battlefield and diminish possibility of conflict that inflames the entire Middle East and withdrawal. Enable sustainable ceasefires. Otherwise militias launch an attack worse than October 7th O'Connor. 325 Iraqi militia designated by an withdrawal with deterrence. This militia causes a little more aggressive money has an offensive on October 7th O'Connor province. Resistance of drones and missiles has united to defend Iraqi sovereignty and duty failure. A result in escalation will destroy American bases and escalation is locked in. Recent de-escalation is purely strategic. Also 224 Secretary General Verona movement Iraq said the whole opposite system protecting the redeployment mobilization sites provided force of the opposition demanded redeployment and change tactics on protecting the PMF air strikes enable breakaway hardliners act independently and draw other militias in March 326 killing senior leaders destroying trading weapons and deposit successful groups separate under federal government networks from government to impunity temporary ceasefires never hold assassinating sold money behind us and other leaders made it more difficult to keep our agreements. The value of U.S. backing ways distortion of command leading to undisciplined leadership without consent of leadership against the interests of PMF groups as benefit the status quo want to minimize regional escalation groups are indivisible from networks of power that govern the Middle Eastern countries are ruling elites rely on militias to maintain power and militia one-upmanship and assume alliance cause U.S. around World War II 23 assumption Washington around and militia leaders surveillance of anticipation between militias provide interest all force leading election and actors using troops for water conflict with each day comes opportunity for crisis that triggers nuclear war. Lopez 23 U.S. critical increment nuclear runner of vicious results. U.S. carriers attack Iran taking out hypersonic sons around concerned Russia in full vulnerable war. The fall of Russia response to nuclear. China launched Taiwan to weaken the U.S. NATO, Russia, China, India, Iran, India nuclear reality and Johnson all great powers against nuclear every 2020 attacks with actual threat and estimated in full war. My development toward North Pakistan over and introducing nukes Russia and China allies around also drawn nukes used intentionally by Moscow 500 times as great as Hiroshima and as great as Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Thus the plan the United States ought to substantially reduce its military presence in the Republic of Iraq. Plan withdrawal faces normalized relations also being regional threats as normally in 723 as we are in terms of final phase transition to small child mention of a few hundred running training to CCS before U.S. troops leave no troops use in combat small contingent save billions of small presence over Iran's influence which is cultural and geographical competences overseas Saudi and is funded the U.S. forces in Iraq around 2,500 down from 158,000 now. The framework the standard and is minimizing the extinction always has its goal people universal no for value moral uncertainty means over for always source for all and no amount of suffering justifies universal non-consensual death. Now advantage 2 instability troops are viewed as a failsafe to ignore corruption guarantees hasty withdrawal 723 and critics of John discount uncertainties development and new threats saying increases hasty withdrawal mission benefits will diminish and cost of withdrawal and decrease commitment undermines incentive to develop capability and encourages corruption of disadvantages troops are viewed as a failsafe against collapse of security corruption undermines the workforce presence of horizontal governance direct conflicts and absent withdrawal and corruption accumulates and state collapse next 23 Iraq is danger Iran leading resources collapses destabilizes the Middle East or the share block allied Iran change rules and individual and embedded self-contained institutions the Honish general company receive 1.2 million acres militias using revenue system and power through unsustainable sending back to road means city full efficient protests instability refugee to Iran weekend authority through corruption militia influence political centers of the U.S. as new troops financial capabilities have impact officials having missions in international commerce and the link whose reverse causal the plan solves corruption and mismanagement 723 about to this all the house to nobility Russian troops in Iraq trade and advice complicating relations and militia Iraq needs to reign in militias on its own helping strengthen its capacity to lower military presence offering non-militarized militias have to cover from Iraq as long as U.S. troops remain in solution also fire directly in Iraq to reign them undermine sovereignty central leverage strengthening capacity in Iraq through diplomacy challenging and then increasing leverage use diplomacy turn attention to electricity productivity water manager helping Iraq make the U.S. secure and enhance reputation tools supplement presence about investment tech assistance to operate independently Washington has leverage forces and more important the large provider of assistance and dealing withdrawal disincentivizes Iraqi military development undermining public support and legitimacy of operations 723 combat officer Iraq transition to train and advice until your common presence completing interest friendly support never decreasing sufficient reassurance moralizing Iraqi pursuit of ultra military so that we cannot meet and incorporate personnel under our command U.S. cannot sub for the will of forces to fight building hindered by lack of soldiers motive HR visas unable to transfer legitimacy. Now scenario 1 is sovereignty ignoring Iraqi consent overall U.S. Iraqi relations that forces withdrawal under 24 and consent remains imperative for troops and resistant troops that would be an intruder legal protection with an increase vulnerable terrorists and prosecution extremely controversial after so money negotiated the withdrawal of the combat mission how strong support will save U.S. substantially increases offices unknown to Nani and goes to the PMF and predecessors complicated dynamics and presence causes militia blowback that worsens destabilization Kurdistan in 227 attacks against military and pressure to include presence opportunity to drop inferiors Iraq as a launch platform prohibited with access via Iraq not needed a base in Kuwait Iran fifthly Saudi UAE aligned with Turkey sufficient to challenge military Iraqi forces capable and need some cooperative with other nations or remotely for militia and use presence to command against forces receive funding presence creates instability and continued destabilization causes enables ISIS resurgence to 123 U.S. attacks destabilize security Iraq's groups expanded U.S. leave vowing to wage a war. The U.S. leave vowing to war. President confused security strikes expanded targeting of American interests, excessive actions, lead to civil war, create security vacuum that terrorists exploit, and extreme civil to CBR and terror extinction beyond 2020. And the global world escalated possibilities for nuclear technology, terror groups, divergent, and ample incentive for CBR and exploitation, globalization, hotter struggles, COW, and use weapons, and Iraq is an tactics to African allies, CBR, and conflict. In the Middle East is an number of obtaining weapons and material possible. Raw material were stolen and accessible to the market over 1,800 tons of built hundreds of bombs in the world. Now, scenario 2 is mismanagement, Iraqi mismanagement attacks energy security, Korean 20. Iraq lacks the means to capture gas and leverage electricity, cheaper, harness on its own GDP, Iranian reconstruction Iraq, desire for gold with gold proximity to Iran, and stability hindered opportunities. People Iraq is a conduit for peace negotiation, electricity connection between Saudi and Iraq, deliver 1.8 gigawatts diversified sources, alleviate reliance on Iran, U.S. investing in Iraq for our Iran solution, put an end to corruption and management deal to connect Iraq to the GCC grid, promising political interference for impede progress, energy crisis already in a shortage of all corruption and energy insecurity fields of Iraq. Could be 2020, Iraq one of the largest oil reserves, making an international actor. Energy, Iraq energy helps stabilize guarantee status as a hub of energy. Iraq energy independence by 2030 may feel mixed with renewable resources, equal progress, strengthen security, bolsters capacity to defeat threats. Iraq's stability, integral of global security against extremism, by building economies, prevent mass refugees in Europe. Stable Iraq upholds global econ and energy security causes World War III. 2019 world plunge into strongest insecurity of oil, the shortest stage of World War for emancipation for oil, lack of resources, root cause of colonization wars for securing resources for oil, purpose of war without oil, not able to defend countries, take military action to protect resources, world wars, to local wars, all related to world regional tensions, involve perception of energy scarcity, and shared conflicts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, energy security. The Iraq energy security spills over evidence. Your evidence indicates that Iraq is a hub of energy. Where does it say that Iraqi energy insecurity spills over?
Well, first of all, that sort of misunderstands the scenario. Kareem says it's very quick and would decisively spill over because once we withdraw from Iraq, they stop becoming dependent on normalization through things like economic and moral aid, which causes Iraq to immediately join the GCC grid and go off of Iranian dependence, and that spills over. The GCC grid is like across
Is there an energy crisis in Iraq right now?
Yeah, we've read evidence that is currently escalating. Iraqi mismanagement is the evidence says.
How long has there been a crisis?
Well, the evidence is from September of 2023. Obviously, apps are written in the context of inherency. If a scenario has happened,
I'm asking, like, how long has there been a crisis?
How long has there been a crisis? Well, the Kareem evidence indicates that the crisis got worse in late 2023.
Okay. If the crisis has been around for 6 months, why has the internal link not been triggered?
Again, that is a question of inherency. If internal links have been triggered, then apps are not inherent. It's only a matter of time. I don't know if you want a calendar to tell you exactly. It's in 2 months, 3 days, 5 hours, etc. But it says that it is immediately stable now.
Can you give me a rough estimate?
Again, no card says like 2 months, 5 days. Energy insecurity
I'm not asking
would go
for 2 months, 5 days. I'm asking, like, is this a year? Is this a month?
Probably in the next year. Energy insecurity is escalating now, and with recent pressures from countries like Iran, etc., escalating in the Middle East via examples like, Israeli strike like 2 days ago, it is vital that energy can help stabilize the entire Middle East.
These Dow 19 evidence is in the context of like energy insecurity with great powers. How does Iraqi energy insecurity spill over to U.S. China energy insecurity?
Yeah, or the argument that Zhao makes is that most of the major wars have been fought over things like resource shortages. Iraqi energy independence, like I explained earlier, is good for the GCC grid, which a ton of countries depend on. Like, the argument is that once we withdraw, Iraq can immediately join the grid, which is good, because it solves political rivalry amongst these nations who are currently fighting for energy. That's a line from the Zhao evidence.
That's fine. The AUSAT 224 card, suspension is a temporary tactic aimed at redeployments. How temporary?
The Oswald evidence cites quotes that it is the calm before the storm. Countries, militias are already demanded redeployment and change in battle tactics. And they say, it literally says that the halt of military operations was the calm before the storm, and it is temporarily aimed at redeployment and mobilization.
Okay, this evidence is from 2 months ago. How long is this calm before the storm?
The calm before the storm, they're building up capabilities now. Militias are building them. We've read evidence that they are escalating now.
What evidence says that militias are escalating capabilities now?
I'm confused. The O'Connor evidence says that Iraqi militias will escalate their campaign if Biden does not meet their demands of withdrawal. They're escalating now because the U.S. has not withdrawn presence.
They're escalating now. Okay, that's fine. I'll send out the 1 and C. It's 6th in cases, tensions, and stability. Sure. It's sent. Let me know when everyone's good. Alright, you good?
Yep.
Interpretation, national built across the entire West Asian North Africa region in words and phrases that weight in through a region dictionary. The entirety of the space still naturally across the board, home 13th to the Supreme Court, across the board only in one setting, and the refers to the entire body, not to speak what is its legal consensus, Supreme Court of Kentucky, 3 article, these can refer to the group as a whole. Decisions that 3 centuries correspond to indicates the entire body, not to be part of the common approved use of violation as specified. Iraqi and Muslim grounds for these like slow limits every individual subset of a country after which moves that carbon use armies and production of large withdrawals like insurance, or the terms and countries with this as or direct the teams who are related to circumscribing the realms permanently see reasonably as arbitrary and self-repeats the race to the bottom of illogical argumentation, arguments, this version setting and topicalities based on to the F. Next self-interpretation, national introducing middle differences by 25% across the water regions of that introduces is the term for US code 10. Second of item rates of work of the theory, the level is down to reduce sound introduction and introducing the introduction of 25% or more, and violation Iraq is 6% of US troops could not in 23 US worth more than 40,000 military personnel across the region. Iraq personnel 2,500 predictable within grand after hard numerical captains on tracks for single basis arms and operations making the topic functionally limited limiting scope link to court advantages. Next up, the United States ought to establish an deliberative branch of government that initiates debate in favor of statutes that as the introduce military presence in Iraq, the executive and legislative branches should promulgate new regulations that will require prior binding consultation with the deliberative branch and all positions, including abiding by the outcome of the branches, the base law and policy of the 4 branches of our system governments failures have revealed license of participation in preventing public detachment from Paradise 1219. You underpaid to and also know that could contribute to global community aid unless numbers are disempowered power resting the few companies will know governed by laws consequences are disparity in power there is no concentration of money and policy clubbing correct from then the will to people compromise we get embrace the reaction policy authoritarian to wall isolation and then a solution for the legislature for fourth government to deliver prevention which all participate alongside delivering online before laws voted on articles and the electoral consensus were official given form between television newspapers radio podcasts and like companies and schools encourage the flowing to improve decision making around the first robotic data climate systems to be like technological power of global warming and it can be to one audits and honors position Mary was certainly auto same issue to should this mandatory means the policy must be immediately effective summers 94 should mean Charlotte must laws immediate and resolve means the certainty immediacy and durability these are all topical requirements OED in under freedom of the intervention must be definite mandated words of phrases for the word astonishment means not concealed anything that which not merely can be what is a certain absolute real at the present time. Next up. The United States should shift the role of its military advisors to mission planning in Iraq, initiate a campaign of diplomacy targeting economic cooperation with Iraq, maintain its military presence in Iraq, should initiate cyberattacks against Iran's power grid and against its banking, oil import infrastructure plans, 22 self-government failures, Simon says we need to actively develop capabilities and standing Simon 23. Washington should concentrate in seasons prior to mission planning, coordination, infrastructure, increasing capacities of rail, developing a budget for limited command arms, operations, sensible for Washington to system the capacity of Iraqi through diplomacy aid, economic cooperation, U.S. tools aid, Iraq investment, technical assistance for climate resilience, and empowering Iraqi, leaders of the largest program of humanitarian assistance, and playing 3 self-kick-out we in the United States saying and for limited self-limited escalation that makes is a form of limited escalation that makes America's red lines clear. Restraining invites further attack London 12/27. By directing military Russian giving trans impression that a window open, they can attack resources within community by missing legally restraining military state from where the U.S. must impose real cost around to deter future attacks around strategies events and understanding Washington red line every time U.S. around to someone or return comes to proxy green lights to attack when the U.S. muscle lines around reigns and reigns happily illustrated after the U.S. killed. Also, the U.S. must also think asymmetrically terms lead up to sleep project on just not consider visible to deny from cyber attacks power bank oil report infrastructure. Next up. Presence is stable with the plan undermines assurance in Saudi Arabia and Bazooka 22. Countries are shift from the U.S. away from involvement if the U.S. reduces the great credit security vacuum on to the U.S. military presence to get excellent with the security doubts. I would willing to say that U.S. forces still seeking no closure of major installation dark schedule that machine adopted business as usual approach and comprehensive literature review proves the plan removes the single most important factor to limiting Saudi proliferation to cruise. 26 Saudi seeking nukes no. Saudi is financial people more openly certainty cooperation with the United States is the best guarantee not see nuke Saudi access of around Saudi have utilized with the U.S. as important relationships center security and containment Saudi is less concerned about Iran's possible originally because the police is covered by the U.S. heightened military action could reach security and nuclear war standards 23 that requiring would be dangerous below increased risk of nuclear laws how to try to ensure weapons are only for certain to demonstrate problems based on followers lead as well as rationally and ignore possibility of human arms and human establishing that Iran undergoing from relative with AI and regional growth outweighs its unprecedented and traditional barriers to dyadic escalation coming in level 23. One on money face as broken manageable but a Middle East with more participants is daunting possibility of nuclear the blue speaks in the hands of their extremist groups of further production could make region kind of problem severe. Next up. U.S. presence is a vital roadblock in the Iranian land bridge 11 on Boulder and COP 23. The reason for country presence is presence of a practical person Iraq making it more difficult for us to move weapons into Lebanon for proxy in Iraq. Troops interrupt land bridge raised to the Mediterranean and continues land bridge superstructures as well as that escalates picket 18. An interrupted presence with a final support transport with many more opportunities to engage with land bridge with a region for international counter under the strategy identity and all the substance shrines influences Iran. So the fact centers over claims and series likelihood of conflict in Iran and Israel growth and Israel active in major conflict no longer distant scenario proxy war would reach instability to the Middle East line road into the conflict and Iraq is needed to go to in is wrong evidence indicate that true presence is specifically considering physical Iranian presence and Iranian revisions conciliatory approaches or wishful think that due to the region to more proxy wars I think at all 19. Wishful think hope that the nuclear would convince Iran to end hostility inside Iran use funds and intensify the proxy war conciliatory approach and fill the Iran the advantage of conflicts in the IRG is the fundamental cause of the catastrophe across the region, most like as well as course government's IRG in Yemen through militias, supervision reveals the rise of the nation becomes dominant based on the ideology demands the world about the U.S. without the West moderate reforms that are geopolitics must be countering the region across the region and the tension advantage. If the plan is a phase resolve, then it cancel attacks on the United States troops, which want to see evidence and want to see across this indicator happening right now. But attacks have stopped. Use retaliation has deterred militia still living in 3/6. Been more than a month since militia attacked US in Syria and Iraq, Syria, and air strikes are or continuing cease or major retaliatory strikes on to send message to Iran fearing retaliation. Iran sent messages that has led these attacks group announced attack on US strikes across Syria and Iraq had in fact the across by the Iran divisions argument from the land bridges that pages there are no suspended evidence from February and it indicates that Iranian proxies are going to start attacking the United States soon, but they have not started attacking the United States soon, which means that the evidence is wrong. There are tons of all causes of the Red Sea time at 24. Militants launched and dozens of attacks and attack when they killed 3 members of the group in Israel. Second emergency U.S. launch warrants ever second Biden declared terrorists and Israelis who are 23 Iran original maintained that the U.S. was simply providing a disability advantage. They have stopped being here on Monday. Worst case, it's soon AFP 4/15. Biden and PM were towards the level of U.S. coalition discussed national solution. The coalition did review when and how the mission in Iraq would end and withdrawal to stabilize Iraq oil imports and foreign aid both collapsed, which caused unrest and recession toward the advantage accountable 20. European economies in trouble, corrections difficult for private entities to do business with all of this in place. The government crisis Iraq have to shift in between continue to fund armed forces, which would mean that are reduced capability of troops in the U.S. level of 10% Iraq to buy energy from severe economic harm exacerbating unrest with withdrawal would affect U.S. global aid to Iraq coordinate is important. A program to lend U.S. military defense for stability, protection, and movement. And there's zero uniqueness evidence that energy crisis is coming right now. Iraq's been in local crisis for a decade. As for their why does will ever happen now? Al-Qasim is one sentence that asserts without a word that Iraq is a hub. That's not enough to solve energy wars between the United States and China. But there's no energy wars anyway. Kubi 14 or Kubi 14. In particular, around the research theory, realizing quality of study case studies hardly gone for quotation countries with Iraq conflict and political analysis. Just they stay to operate economic political ties. Current conflict is found materialized in form of not armed hostilities and the terror adventures are only internal to terror destabilization in the region. But for suspension, there's no destabilization and withdrawal destroys Iraqi CT capabilities. ISIS weak now. Research is accountable 20. Islamic State completely decapitated, but not in a bad abandoned counter IS fight. But suddenly give a space to evolve in Syria, inserting the loss of supporting Iraq, global virus stand up to see the U.S. Michigan will become untenable, demonstrate, have reemerged during internal resolve. Iraqi forces would suffer from significant degradation, sense of self-refugees are right for recruitment in Iraq, not prepared to address this. And I'm good for cross.
Okay. Counter plan status.
Which one?
Both of them.
Sure, the deliberative counterplan is conditional. Each group of the advantage counterplan is conditional.
So everything is common.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That by each group you mean you can kick planks, right?
No. In the doc, we have designated between different groups. Like, for example, if I kick the first plank, I also have to kick the second plank.
Okay, that makes sense. The deliberative counterplan or the first plank and the second plank, are these like distinct, and like would the consultation result in the establishment of an deliberative branch, or like how are these two planks distinct, I guess?
No, the first plank creates an deliberative branch. The second plank requires the executive and the legislative branch to consult with that branch on all policy.
Okay, how long does it take to create this branch? Like, can the counterplan just fiat that entire branch is created immediately?
I think if the AF gets a fiat that the United States withdraws like all military presence from Iraq instantly, or like phases instantly.
Okay, well, no, I feel like those two are kind of distinct because you're fiating the creation of an entire new branch. I guess, like, what does the process of that creation look like?
I mean, like normal means probably. Normal means is probably like the executive or the legislative branch create a new branch. I'm not sure.
Okay, created new branch. When does the branch become like effective or like binding at solving the net benefit?
Instantly.
Instantly, but I guess when is the creation of the branch also instantly?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. The Saudi prolif dissad, your link evidence is from 2020 and about how the U.S. has had good assurances to Saudi. Iran withdrew in 2021, a year after the dissad link. Why does that not thump?
Iran withdrew.
Iran withdrew. Sorry.
Sure. I mean, we read uniqueness evidence from 2022 that takes that into account.
Uniqueness evidence from 2022 just says that presence is stable. How does that answer the fact that, how's that not an AF argument? The fact that after we withdrew, presence remains stable, as your evidence prices into.
I'm confused. I mean, I don't know why, like, the United States withdrawing from Afghanistan would be similar to the United States withdrawing from Iraq.
Wait, no, I'm sorry. In 2021, we withdrew 2,500 troops from Iraq. How does that not thump the dissad? And where have you read a link contextual to withdrawal now?
Sure, the argument, I mean, we can read more evidence about this in the 200, but the specific argument that we're making is that right now Saudi Arabia thinks that Iran is being especially aggressive in the region. They think that the United States' presence in the region is specifically key to counter Iran's sea to land bridge decide. This was not the case in 2022 because Iran was not attacking the United States partners.
The land bridge, the Balder and COP evidence talks about moving weapons, Iran to move weapons across Iraq and Syria. I guess why is specifically withdrawing from Iraq bad, and why would Syria not solve? Your evidence says Syria, and you just de-highlighted it.
One is that the last piece of evidence, the Chronicle 20 evidence that we read on the case page, indicates that the United States cannot maintain military operations in Syria absent support from military in Iraq. So we think that withdrawing from Iraq also means that the United States can't do effective things in Syria. Two is that it's obviously important. Iraq is between Iran and Syria, which means that there's no land bridge to Syria if Iran doesn't have access to Iraq.
Okay, cool. 5 minutes. Sit down. Okay, 119 left. Let me type that in the doc. Okay, I'm gonna send it. Order is case, so advantage 1, advantage 2, and then the offs in the order you read it.
So that's tension, stability, two
Yep.
subsets, two substantial. So liberal democracy, advantage Canada, Saudi prolific language.
Yep.
Just stops in order?
Yep.
And advantage is in order?
Yep.
Alright. Is there a doc?
Yeah, it was.
Cool, I'm just downloading it. Okay.
Now proceed. Okay, perfect. Our one more always miscalculation and irrationality oscillates around a course from Russia, China, and Alex Donlan. Let's say right now, 1 and 2 all, we withdraw 88% of presence immediately, which means that the phase does not apply to this argument. 1 and T2 ultimate answers it and says temporary redeployments and temporary non-tactics sort of answer this because it doesn't mean that they mean they're prepping, they have preparations now. Iran envisionist, that's wrong. You conceded the ultimate of it. This is that Iran is defensive. One is weaker powers. Iran cares more about the US because it has limited adversaries and everything to lose, so they're more motivated to have split attacks. 2 is inevitable. Continue strike signals to Iran. The punishment is inevitable, which means that attacks 0 marginal risk, making it more committed to its own tools of deterrence. That's ultimate. Now the old causes arguments are very much wrong. They're very old and don't assume current tensions that say that presence is the number one driving factor of why militias are escalating in the first place. Now, advantage 2, stability, terrorism in all ways, a single tactic choice, global growth and governance, which ensures miscalculation, prolif, and deterrence collapse. That's Fianca. Now, the one they're only internal about is they say it's about destabilization, but it's not true. It's about what Iraq wants and why militias and why these regimes are causing destabilization, and says that Sudan is closer to predecessors than any other argument, which is opposite. Now, 1 and T2 accountable is wrong. The plan keeps counter-terror operations. That was assignment to evidence. Now, the energy center corruption and Iranian over-reliance stop GCCs from investors from diversifying its energy, which then global energy insecurity. That's the Korean argument. First, the inherency arguments. It also would equally apply to the they said, but it just says that they're going towards talks, which means that it's not happening now, and any risk of escalation is out. But the energy insecurity evidence is not coming now. Our evidence in this go much more recent than Economist, and says that the Iraqi economy is bad because of the fact that it has no energy security. The plan would signal an immediate shift, which would allow them to join the GCC grid. T. Counter-interpretation of made of a subset of Eastern North Africa region issue of rule cameras, a particular vanilla countries of fighting precision only matters for predictability, which in fact helps to fairness and ground proofs. It collapses and creates wiki norms. Topic literature every 1 and 2 card proves that substance are key to core controversy. Now ground 2 is fixed. Minor presence can be picked out of large household autonomy limits and always personally breaking one erase with no deficits. Functional limits and generation check principle. Topic literature internal links, solvency, evidence, inherency, perception links, deterrence, deployment, etc. All check. Now T is substantial. We defend 88% in Iraq. It means instead of everything counter-interpretation, the offensive reduction over 100 troops. T19. The security effectively possible when substantial troops are deployed. Our value arbitrary based on average number to 100 troops. Substantial military presence contribution as well to defend any reduction basis. We've inserted a map for reference. Now our customer the standards for above. Now the 1 year and now the counterplan plan 1 part 2 with shields link part 2 the plan and the counterplan over something else and troops index. It's key to determining that better ensuring topic research can't solve. Say no 4 branches and solve. Actually that's the wrong card. Delays and impact filter. And choosing 5 ratification take much longer than 27. That's all reference to 2 layers. And literature 17 rights work 18. A convention for the constitution the convention for being Canada and led to a runaway social interest in the gerrymander polarization. There are no rules. A Pandora's box, no jurisdiction. Legislative executive authorities to settle disputes. Opening and perm to the counterplan. And then the affirmative doesn't suffer certainty and immediacy. Justify delay. Justifies the counterplan to killing Afghan fiat. It can be immediate. The plan hasn't happened. Perm to the counterplan. Richmond 12. Should not give me a impaired obligation over the not a recommendation, not a mandate. And every other argument for the thumbs and no evidence that it would happen now. It happened now. The Saudi assurances that Saudi already discounted the Iraq is a security guarantee in 2033. That's Simon. It's thumbed down in 23. Saudi nuclear power living out 2010. Royal decree stipulating autonomy of energy essential to meet the growing requirements. The reduced hyper-recovery 2021 withdrawal thumbs a year after the cruise was when we would do the same as the plan now start 2020. The US announced withdrawal troops from 2,500 to 3,000 in September's decision to the confidence Iraqi security forces. The Saudi nuclear deal expires prolif and dumps the J6 15. Saudi deal nuclear agreement bring the kingdom within weeks of recording bombs. Saudi not hesitate to dump the BT things around building bombs. Even Washington restricting co-op deal development intelligence. The Saudi Alpha D's F-21 CIA found after missiles were delivered. Sorry, go back to the advantage tournament. F1 bilateral diplomatic means that Iran also has request a list in which means which they will, because recent strikes were supported by the U.S. off 2. Anderson is answering his legal protections around the U.S. troops, which means they get prosecuted or killed off. 3. The U.S. is already doing this for corruption is rendered useless. Can't solve corruption. Only building up now. Solve the grade 1 to remove now. Lambridge and Balders about Iraq and Syria. Prove Syria and troops solve intern of Europe. Makes monthly and Apple teammate 24. Iran is supplying weapons. Has well attack using European wars to do something. Shipments of Iraq to Syria. Europe missile and bombs and hidden missile and increase attacks and sending a missile new link. Myers 1 to 19 how to operate in Syria without local support by Iran, Iraq, Bethlehem, organization that present what's needed to keep mission in Syria.
Cool. I'll start with prep. Any kind of reasons to drop the team?
No.
Cool. Were there any responses to cyber attacks though?
Sorry, where? The case page?
Advantage counterplan.
The cyber attacks, the third plank, correct? Or the group 3, right?
Last link.
Yeah. Let me check. The U.S. is already doing these things, but corruption has rendered it useless, which is why withdrawal is key. It's the same argument in the doc. I didn't accept anything.
Cool, that's prep. There's no doc. The order is the deliberative democracy counterplan. The Saudi pro-life dissent.
Like the branches stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That, then the Saudi pro-life dissent, then the advantage counterplan, then the land bridges dissent, then the tensions advantage, and the stability advantage. Do you want me to give that again?
No, I'm good.
And shows.
Okay.
Concede permutations, they both not going for it. It's a test of computation, not an actual advocacy. The Saudi decide I'll concede numbers, I'm not going for it either. There's no options because they haven't read a link turn, and if I concede numbers, that proves that the link turn should have been triggered in the past to the advantage counterplan. I'm going to go for the cyber attack plan. It is completely mishandled in the 1 year. It solves the entire Iran war scenario. It solves all the 1 sees Iran war offense. They responded to the wrong plan. Their argument is that the United States should initiate a suite of targeted cyber attacks against Iranian infrastructure, think port, oil, etc. This is going to deter Iran if we win the revisionism claims on the case page because the evidence indicates that Iran is only deterred by the United States when they think that an attack on the United States is going to cross the United States red line. They think right now Iran thinks that they can continue attacking the United States proxies in the region without facing strong United States response, which incentivizes them to keep prodding the United States further, which causes massive amounts of wildfire escalation. Only launching a massive attack on Iran right now solves without escalating. Iran doesn't want to war with the United States, so they're not going to retaliate to a United States war, to a United States attack on them, empirically proven by them not responding to Israel's attack on them on Thursday night. But it is going to scare Iran enough to not want to launch more attacks in the future, which solves all of K's. I'm not going to go for the other 2 plans. You can kick them. Concede just kick them. They're condo. The land bridge is set. The land bridge was completely mishandled in the 1 year. It was mishandled in the 1 year. It turns out always the case. The 1 year wait Iran war for us. The specific scenario that we have is that post withdrawal Iran has a complete land bridge available to them to be able to funnel weapons to Hezbollah in a place like Syria, from which Hezbollah can attack Israel, which causes Israel to get angry at Iran, which causes more Israeli-Iranian escalation. The probability of the decide is very high right now, especially given the escalation that has been happening in the past week between Iran and Israel. Obviously, if Hezbollah gets more weapons and starts attacking Israel more, Israel is going to get extra scared, which is going to cause massive amounts of escalation. The probability of that happening right now is much more higher than the probability of independent escalation happening from Iran and the United States, because Iran and the United States proxies have been attacking each other for many months. But just in the past week, have we seen escalation between Israel and Iran? Obviously, if Iran attacks Israel, the United States get drawn in. That causes Russia and China to get drawn in. As for the 1 year analysis at the top of the case page, which turns out always the case, the TME24 evidence is TME24 evidence is not responsive. It says that Iran is smuggling weapons to Hezbollah right now, but there's a quote from the evidence that says that Israeli actions have quote unquote meant that Iran has been less effective in doing this because Israel has been able to use troops and use connections with the United States to be able to prevent Iran from moving these troops through the region. Post plan, Israel is not able to do this because the United States does not have the ability to deter Iran from doing anything in the region either. Which is the links to the dissent. You say that it's about Iraq, not just Syria, but obviously this is false. The border reference is very specific. It indicates that Iran is able to sort of maintain influence in Syria post plan after, because it is able to maintain influence in Iraq, and Iraq is proximal to Syria, but Iran is not proximal to Syria. You yourself inserted a graph into the 1 year doc for that demonstrate this. Obviously, Iran is going to have a much easier time invading Syria or increasing its influence in Syria if it has a open land bridge to Syria. Right now, Iran does not have any access to Syria, which is exactly our argument. I do not need to win a very high risk with the dissent because I'm going to win massive amounts of defensive case because the 1 year has mishandled all the arguments that we were making over there. And I go to case tensions. Suspensions is true. Suspensions is true. The only 1 year argument to this was that it is a temporary redeployment. There was no word that I flowed in the 1 year, and I do not think that there was one that you flowed either. You've conceded that your evidence is from February 21st of 2024, and it indicates that a temporary redeployment is going to happen soon. But nothing has happened over the past 2 months. There's not been a single attack against United States troops in the region, which proves our argument that Iranian proxies are not attacking the United States right now, which means that the risk of the advantage starts very, very, very low. Even if there is a risk that Iranian proxies are going to continue attacking the United States, the counterplan solves all of that which is above, and it solves the case better, which means that it has an internal net benefit. Even if I do not win an external net benefit, so there's very low risk of that. The too long argument, I'm also going to go for it. You say that it reduces 80% of troops right now. That is irrelevant. If there's still 20% of United States troops in Iraq, that is still 20% of troops that Iranian proxies can attack, which is sufficient to trigger your internal link. If the internal link is something like as soon as the United States soldier dies, that causes escalation. The stability advantage. The accountable evidence has gotten mishandled, which is an independent 2NR, which is an independent negative VLD argument. You mishandled the argument. The argument is not defense of your argument, rather it is a straight terms of disability advantage. Your argument is that when the United States withdraws from Iraq, it is impossible for humanitarian aid groups to keep operating in Iraq. The only reason that they feel comfortable operating right there right now is because the United States is guaranteeing them safety from things like Iranian proxies and from Iraqi militia groups. When the plan happens, these groups are not able to continue operating, which forces them to withdraw from the region, which supercharges all the instability that is happening right now in Iraq. Uniqueness does not flow from Iraq has been unstable for the past decade after the United States intervention in 2003, but we have not seen any of your internal links triggered because these humanitarian aid groups in the region have been able to keep instability from reaching dangerous levels. When the plan happens, these humanitarian aid groups cannot operate, which triggers a massive which triggers a link to massive amounts of state collapse. If there is an impact in the 2NR, then that should be sufficient to trigger the then that should be sufficient to trigger all the impacts which turns every single argument coming out of the one area. It turns energy wars because state collapse means, or because it turns energy wars because if these aid groups cannot keep operating, then obviously the economy tanks, which is the biggest internal link to the energy wars happening. It turns a terror argument because if humanitarian groups do not operate, then the conditions that people are living in are very dire, which the conditions that people are living in are very dire, which means that there is very low risk. If conditions that people are living in are very dire, so people get desperate, they start doing terrorist stuff. The terror argument proper. Your only response to the terror argument was that the plan keeps counter-terror operations in the region, which is obviously false. The entire United States presence in Iraq is for the purpose of counter-terror. Even if there are some troops that are not for counter-terror, those troops exist to be able to facilitate counter-terror operations in the region, which means that the plan sort of nullifies the United States' ability to maintain counter-terror operations. History is on our side in this debate insofar as when the United States withdrew from when the United States withdrew from Iraq in past years, that causes massive amounts of terrorist resurgence, which proves that the plan is also going to cause massive amounts of terrorist resurgence. The only reason that ISIS is not resurged right now is because the plan is because the United States troops in the region are doing things like carrying out surgical strikes and training Iraqi militia units to be able to prevent war in the region.
Okay. 1 minute, 19 left. Starting now. Let's start. Advantage 1, so tension, stability, advantage counter plan, disad.
Good. Good.
You really trapped yourself in there.
Tangent will concede that there's no Iran war. Deterrence checks all of these arguments, but it doesn't apply to the stability advantage. The argument about a phase withdrawal not solving any of these arguments, the job from the one here that the only arguments that we keep are counter-terror operations, which are non-combat non-combat troops, which means that they would not attack these troops or escalate tensions whatsoever. Stability. Stability outweighs terrorism, outweighs and turns every other impact. The tuner has not isolated a time frame for their descent, which means that you should err heavily affirmative on the case outweighing a single attack destroys double with the evidence which ensures miscalculation, prolif, and deterrence collapse. That's Bianca. All of our arguments from the one era show that corruption is happening in the world as a status quo because of U.S. Iranian, because of the U.S. military presence. Iraq is unstable, and they've been unstable for the past decade, but they're more unstable now because of the fact that escalation is decisively occurring now. They have made arguments for why right now countries like Israel are attacking, which is uniqueness for us because it concedes the fact that means Iran is going. That concedes the fact that escalation is happening between all of these great powers, and that it's only a matter of time. Only the plan does something offensively, which withdraws military troops. They just drop the case which is able to solve for the case would solve terrorism, which decisively collapses first. It only takes a matter of time for terrorists to be able to garner illicit materials to build the bomb. They say that the turns case argument, but this is wrong. They've conceded from the counter plan that they've dropped normalization, and that the plan causes normalization, which solves for things like foreign aid collapse and otherwise would cause massive unrest and recession. Only the plan sends a decisive signal for Iraq to build up its own capabilities in order to not be reliant on these things in the first place, which was a drop one error argument on the counterplan page, which should be seen as true. Terrorism decisively happens. The low risk arguments are wrong. CTS is the only troops that are kept which are counter-terror operations. All of the other ones are advisory non-combat troops, which means that they will not be any place to escalate. The advantage counterplan. The counterplan was only contextual to solving for scenario one. We're not going for it. It isn't just about Israel, deterring Iran through things like strikes, but it doesn't solve for any of the other advantages because those rely on corruption within the status quo. Only the plan signals a withdrawal of U.S. forces, which forces Iraq to stop corruption and build its own state capabilities. It does not contextualize to solving the first scenario. It doesn't matter. The dissent. Any risk we went on the dissent is an automatic outfall. At first, though, we're going for the Boulder argument, the sort of land bridge argument is decisively better than all of these arguments. The tuner has made an argument that, quote, Iraq is close to Iran. That does not make any sense because of the fact that if you look at the internal map, all of these things would first go through Iraq and then go through Syria, which means that Syria would inevitably be able to stop those things like weapons smuggling in the first place because it is the second country it goes through, which means that if we withdraw from Iraq, then Syria would be able to do things like stop the forces and weapons smuggling. Second argument we'll go for is the smuggling inevitable argument. They say Europe is not contextual, but it is very much contextual. Iran has already been smuggling weapons to attack Israel through European ports, hidden in things like arms shipments, disrupting shipments via not only Iraq but also Syria. They've done things like have missile containers, bombs, hidden, etc., which means that it is all a decisively affirmative argument. They say that uniqueness is so fragile now that it's an AF argument because it proves that European smuggling would be inevitable. Nowhere have they read evidence that specifically Iraqi weapon capability would be enough to trigger the link, but Europe is a decisive thumper and thumbs all of their arguments. Good debate.
Good debate.